And to discuss this, we're joined now from our Pretoria studios by Deputy Justice Minister John Jeffery. A very good evening to you, Deputy Minister. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Firstly, what's your reaction to these latest developments?
Firstly, good evening and thanks for having me. Look, it seems like a complete breakdown in the system, that this should never have happened. Just to maybe give background, you normally apply for bail. Bail is not about punishment, it's about whether you're going to appear in court, whether you're going to interfere with the witnesses. You normally apply for bail in court, but for less serious cases, the police can give you bail. And for slightly more serious cases, the prosecution or the prosecutor can give you bail if there's agreement from the police. And that is what happened in this case on Friday. And as has been said in the insert, that should never have happened. It only applies to the case that we're dealing with seems to be one of attempted murder. And attempted murder is not one of the charges that you can get either prosecutorial or police bail. So what happened, it seems, was wrong. The NPA needs to investigate the conduct of the prosecutor, and also the police, because the police would have agreed to the bail as well.
Okay, so Deputy Minister, firstly, our reporter Crisaldo Lewis did speak to the NPA, who said that they were not provided with information that should have been in the docket, that there have been previous attempts or attacks on the victim, and that she indeed had a protection order against the perpetrator. But secondly, the police themselves admit that it should not have happened. The question then becomes, what broke in the system?
Yeah, it's difficult to tell what happened, and I think we need to wait for that investigation. But clearly there need to be consequences both for the police that were involved and the prosecutor. I mean, as far as I understand, the accused was arrested in the process of assaulting his wife or estranged wife. So I don't know how this could have happened. I think one of the things we also need to look at is in domestic violence cases, gender-based violence cases, should they not all be excluded from after-hours bail, which would be police and prosecutorial bail? Generally, I mean, if it was only assault GBH, grievous bodily harm, which is serious assault, but not as much as attempted murder. If it was that, he could have got bail under this section. Clearly, this was attempted murder, and attempted murder, as I said, is not one of the charges that you can get prosecutorial bail for.
So the protection order, is that within the Protection of Harassment Act?
No, generally, well, there's two kinds of protection orders. There's one from the Protection from Harassment Act, but the main one, and I'm sure it would have been the one used in this case, is in terms of the Domestic Violence Act. That's specifically for where there's a relationship between the person wanting the order and the person against whom the order is sought. So it would be a husband and wife, or a wife often getting it against the husband. It could be a boyfriend, girlfriend, if they're not married. But it could also be family members that would get that. But it's generally where the parties are. It's for where the parties are known to each other.
Because I'm sure you would have also come across cases, Deputy Minister, where there have been complaints that even though compelling evidence exists, people who've applied for a protection order are not protected from being stalked by the perpetrator or the person who's harassing them or threatening them. The fact that they are still allowed within a certain number of meters, or at least within proximity of them, that is in itself threatening, that they have access to wherever it is that they live or their place of work. What is it that needs to happen that for people who have already obtained a protection order actually do feel protected?
There's a number of responses. Firstly, we are re-evaluating and re-looking at the legislation dealing with domestic violence in particular. to tighten up the places where it's weak. The way the process works currently is that you can, in both the Domestic Violence Act and the Protection from Harassment Act, you can get an interim order very easily, and that's without hearing the other side. Then it's set down for another date where the person against whom the order has been granted can give their response, their version of events. And then the issue is if you break the order, as long as the complainant makes an affidavit detailing how you've broken the order, the person can be arrested. So it is something that should bring immediate consequences. The orders will differ. Sometimes if it's a couple who are living together, you can get an order where the man is not allowed in the communal bedroom, the bedroom that they both shared. So it would very much depend on the circumstances of each case and what the relationship is. So, if they're living together, then it's more complicated, obviously.
As you say, Deputy Minister, you do recognize that there are some weaknesses, some blind spots. So ultimately what we would be seeking is efficacy, and that would mean stringent enforcement of the law, stringent enforcement of whatever order has been granted. How do we then improve that? Because ultimately, if somebody goes to the law for protection, that is exactly what they expect.
Yeah, well, there's two issues. The one is, where can we change the law to make it stronger, easier, more effective? But the other, as you raised it, is the implementation of the law and ensuring that it's properly implemented. So the process should be, you are feeling under threat from your partner or your ex-partner. You apply to court for an order in terms of the Domestic Violence Act. You get that order. And then if that person continues to harass you, stalk you, threaten you, intimidate you, you make an affidavit to the police and you get that person arrested. And then they get charged with breaking the order.
Thank you very much for your time.
But I think what we've also got to look at is improving the mechanisms of accountability. Where there's a problem, where somebody is feeling aggrieved that the law didn't work for them, they need to report it and they need to be responded to.
All right, thank you very much for that. Deputy Minister of Justice and Correctional Services, John Jeffery.